All right, everybody. Good evening. I saw Karen was starting. I'm going to start, everybody. Watch.
Well,
Michael just started. So welcome. It is December 11th, 2018. This is the December meeting of the virtual chapter. I am your host, Michael Watson, and I am here with my lovely and charming co-host, Karen Hand. Say hello, Karen.
hello there. How are you, everybody?
And we come to you on the second Tuesday of every month of the year with guest speakers and presenters from the hypnosis community to share what they have to share with you. So we are thrilled to be here. For those of you who are members of IACT or IMDHA, or maybe both of them, do be aware that this is an official chapter of IACT and IMDHA, although everyone is welcome. But that does mean that if you're a member of those organizations, you can get CEUs for being with us just by going out to their website, logging in with your member ID, and telling them I spent an hour and a half with Michael and Karen and their guests, and I want credit for it. And they will give you credit for it. So no time shall be lost. Go, Karen.
We also have reciprocity with ICBCH and IHF, the International Hypnosis Federation. So if you're a member of either of those, you also get CEUs for attending these meetings.
Mm-hmm. And my experience tells me that the more cordial of the hypnosis organizations, even who are not among our official list, will give you credits for things that you do, such as this. You might check them out and say, if you're one of those, if you belong to one of those groups, been attending these hypnosis meetings online and I want to get credit for it. So the meeting is being recorded. As I said, the recording will be posted by about noon tomorrow. That's my best guess. It is posted on the virtual chapter group on Facebook. Is also posted on the IACT IMDHA member forum. If you're a member of the group, you can get it there. And Virtual Chapter also has a YouTube channel, and it is posted there. So there are a number of places that you can see it. And feel free to let people know that it's out there and direct your friends to look at it again, because I'm sure that Sean Michael Andrews is going to say something that I will want to hear twice. I will say to myself, what was that again? And it'll be a good thing that I have the recording. So I'm looking forward already to seeing this again tomorrow. That's just amazing. So
no pressure. Yeah.
So that's all you need to know. A little couple announcements that we want to make. Karen, there is a conference in January that you're involved with, an electronic conference, I believe.
That will be January 12th. That is the I did not write down the official name of it. It is the Entrepreneur Virtual Conference, I believe. Hypnopreneur Virtual Conference, I'm sorry. And there will be, I believe, 24 speakers. It'll be a full day, 2 days. No, it's just January 12th, so it's a full day of education, and it just rotates. Also, if you sign up for that, you can get recordings of the entire thing, so if you miss some of it, you can do it. And I will, before we're through tonight, when we stop with our announcements and such, I will go on and get the official log on for that and put that in the chat room. You don't have it, do you, Michael?
No, I'm sorry, I do not.
Yeah. So that'll be January 12th. That's a fun thing that's going to happen all online from the comfort of your own home.
And you're going to be presenting there, right?
I will. It's all about business and doing the business of hypnosis. And I will be talking about nonverbal communication and the importance of the message that you deliver before you ever say a word. So that'll be your website, that'll be how you appoint your office, that will be all sorts of things in nonverbal communication, and then also the nonverbal communication that you can add into your sessions that will also enhance success.
Does this include Italian hand signs and stuff?
It could. I mean, there are all sorts of nonverbal communications that you can give to someone.
Sorry. There are so many. Yes. Great. Well, that would be lovely. And then in February.
In February, yes, we will both be in Vegas, sunny, warm Las Vegas. Although it's cold at night in the desert, but still, it'll be warmer than Chicago. And that is a 3-day event, February 26th and 27th. All about clinical hypnosis. So doing hypnosis in your office. And Sean Michael Andrews, you are welcome to attend.
Oh, well, thank you.
You also do clinical hypnosis. We'll find out more about that coming up. But Sean is best known, I think, as the world's fastest hypnotist and a stage hypnotist. But we're going to ask him later on how that translates into clinical work as well, because you can use I use an awful lot of stage tricks in my clinical work with clients too.
It's interesting how it translates into clinical work. Is really curious to me, because I thought if you could get a translator. So in other words, Sean Michael Andrews could do a speed induction, and then you'd have a hypno-translator who would do it more slowly.
Reel him back in real quickly. I'm gonna reel him.
Yeah.
And what are you presenting in February at that conference?
I am presenting
it's something amazing because it says so right on the cover.
It says something awesome, actually.
It's something awesome.
Yeah, I am presenting the ins and outs of working online, just an hour-long presentation about the virtual hypnotist and the online work that we've been doing with clients and how that all goes. So for people who are interested in that. And if I can segue out of there, also in February, the weekend of the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I am doing my annual core transformation training here in lovely Orlando, Florida. A great time if you are in a place like Chicago, for example, that looks like this. Well, Chicago doesn't look like this landscape behind me, does it now? But if you're in a place that's cold and terrible, February is a lovely time to visit Orlando and to have your core transformed. So you can contact me about that, and if you have an interest, and I'll let you know. Also in February, starting on the 17th, Karen and I will be co-hosting the IMDHA Presenters Series in anticipation of the, what year is this now? 2019 Hypno Expo. And that's going to be a delight. We will have 8 Sunday evenings, and there will be 2 presenters each evening. And there are specifically the folks that are doing pre and post conference programs at the expo. So they'll be on to talk about their topics, and of course to encourage people to take their seminars. And so we do this every year, and it's going to be great fun. So we're looking forward to that. And by the way, Sean Michael Andrews, I discovered you're not going to be, are you going to be joining us in Daytona this year?
Of course. Yeah, I'm just not doing pre or post.
Because I noticed your name was not on the list, so I thought it's a good thing that we're talking to you now.
I wouldn't miss it.
Great. Well, we will certainly look forward to seeing you then. So that's all the announcements that I can think of. I do have
bounce back real quick, Michael, to January, because on January 4th,
it
is World Hypnotism Day.
Yes.
And World Hypnotism Day is just an event where we can all celebrate hypnosis. And this year I'll be celebrating World Hypnotism Day with a free webinar for hypnotists. For many World Hypnotism Days, I've done things for the public to draw them into hypnosis. This year I thought I would give the gift to hypnotists. And I have a handy little form, the hypnotist tracking form, how to keep track of your clients on one sheet. So you can, from your very first intake with the client, you can write down a bunch of information that you gather about them and keep that handy so that when they come back for a subsequent session, you're already up to speed with many of the things that you learned in that very first session. It puts you right back into the zone with the client. So we'll be doing an hour on Zoom 2 times on January 4th. It will be one at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and another at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, hoping that one of those would work with Antonio's and Jerry's schedule so that they could join us as well. So it's free, absolutely free. And if you're interested in attending either of those sessions, all you have to do is go to my website, karenhand.com. And under trainings, you'll see a place where you can sign up for it. I will just send you the Zoom codes so that you can join in if you're interested in doing so.
Nice. That lovely stuff. Lovely stuff coming up. So lots of great things in the hypno world. And now I just have one topic that I want to introduce before we get to our guest speaker, and just a little mini featurette that I wanted to share with you. And that is that on Thanksgiving Day, of all of the days in the year, I actually started a group on Facebook that is called the Hypnotist Service League. Some of you may have been aware of it. If you just look up Hypnotist Service League, it's a group that you can join. There hasn't been a lot of activity or anything going on there yet. We're just kind of getting our ducks in a row, as it were. But the idea is simply an opportunity for hypnotists to give something back to the community. I think it's interesting. I saw a post on Facebook a few days ago, and somebody had like literally, in the large type, if you type a short message on Facebook that you get, and it was rather dramatic, and it suggested that brain surgery, that there's nobody that gives away neurosurgery for free. So why on earth would a hypnotist ever give away their services? And so I actually responded by explaining why. I did question whether his question was in fact a question, but I think he may not have liked that particular part. But and I suggested why. I think that it's a great thing for us to do, that we've got something to offer the world. That what I do know is if somebody needs brain surgery, I hope to hell that they can get it. There are people out there that just may not be able to afford the price of services. So for me, who admittedly comes into this field from ministry, my orientation is different in terms of what I think it is that we're up to. But for me, I think it makes some sense that maybe you do one a month or whatever it is, but they all do some kind of pro bono and take some time to give something back. One session a month, what's the loss to you? But it certainly could make a real difference to somebody who couldn't see somebody otherwise. There's a big press that I see in the hypnosis community about attracting high-end clients, suggesting, by the way, that that those that are at the other end of the spectrum really shouldn't be of any interest to us, or that we really shouldn't care too much about them. And the reason I'm making the statement that strongly is that when I posted my reason for thinking that altruism was maybe a useful thing, and that it had a place in our culture, what ended up happening was I was sure that somebody would respond, and there were no responses and no responses. I kept watching my notifications, and finally I realized that what had actually happened was my post had been removed by the guy who posted the original thread, because I guess in some circles, at least, the idea of giving back or of giving anything away is a topic that just really doesn't want to be heard. So in response to that, what I know is that there are all kinds of folks out there in the world who are stressed out, who are freaked out, who could just really enjoy the experience of having on a daily basis some 15 or 20 minutes of hypnosis that they could access. And so I put out a challenge to the hypnosis community, and it was Thanksgiving Day, so I need to put it out again. But I've invited people to create an induction, 10 to 15 minutes. We don't want it to be any longer than that. It'd be lovely if people would know what it was that they could expect when they went to get this. So if we can maintain 10 to 15 minutes and no references to current events, because after all, we're trying to relieve some stress. Because we don't know what day it is that your video would be on anyway. What's going to happen is, as the videos come in, we'll just put them in a line, and each day we'll go to the next one and to the next one and to the next one, and they'll be on a rotation. So we'd like to get as many as we possibly can, but it's just simple. Take a few breaths, relax, 10 to 15 minutes, let go of some stress and tension in a rather non-dogmatic, non-biased way. Simply relax and get rid of some stress. So please do that if you can, and make your videos 10 to 15 minutes long. Send them to me, FL Hypno. I am in Florida. I do hypnosis, so FL Hypno, pretty easy to remember, at Outlook.com. Outlook, of course, because I have such a lovely Outlook, and I'd really like to make this available to people. So, and where these videos will be posted is there's a second Facebook group that is called Peaceful Moments. And so the idea is for people who want to get these in their timeline every day, if they would just subscribe to Peaceful Moments or join Peaceful Moments, then each day they're going to have a video in their Facebook feed. So that's what we're doing. I hope you will send me your videos. Like I said, I put it out on Thanksgiving Day, and to be honest with you, it's not going so well. I got one video, and I made one of my own, so there are two now. I'll give you the benefit of it was the holiday. A whole lot of people said, I'm really interested. I think this is a great idea. This is a lovely idea. Thanks, Mike, for proposing this again and again. Yet the videos have not arrived. So they must be in the works. Please don't try to overdo your videos. Don't try to compete with other hypnotists. This is not about advertising. Do not advertise. But don't make the bar impossible either. Simple, straightforward, relax, let go of some stress and tension, and have a lovely day. Okay? I do hope you will send me a video. By the way, in terms of those of you who've got to get publicity out of this, you don't need to make it a commercial. Do bear in mind, if it's posted, it's going to be posted with your name. And if you're on Facebook and they like what you did when they get their video that day, then perhaps they will check you out. So you have to wait to get something from it as well. So thanks very much for your time and attention to my announcement. I'm finished for the day. But
You are not. You're
we have
saying
something else to do. We have something rapid, no doubt.
Yes, we have some rapid inductions on the way. Sean Michael Andrews is our guest tonight. He is the supervising instructor for the Dave Ellman Hypnosis Institute. He teaches the nurse anesthetist course for the American School of Clinical Hypnosis International. Sean's also the director and senior instructor for the Atlantic Hypnosis Institute. He teaches his unique style of instant hypnosis throughout the US and Canada, and many consider him to be the world's fastest hypnotist. Sean has also done some amazing research. His wife was stationed in Heidelberg, Germany for a while, and he did some great research over there. And there's some interesting details about that I'd like to hear from Sean too. I don't know if Michael has an opening question, but one thing I want to know, Sean, I think it's very interesting why what you were doing in Germany was research as opposed to just you're the hypnotist in Germany. They have some interesting rules, do they not?
They do. In fact, in Germany, by law, if you want to be a hypnotherapist, you must also be what they call a Heilpraktiker. And a Heilpraktiker is sort of an alternative health care provider. And the test is auf Deutsch, and you can't use a translator. So there was no way I was going to be able to pass that test. And since I'm a guest was a guest in that country, I thought it was important for me to follow the letter of the law. So I did not see clients when I was in Germany. However, I did do, and I'd like to call them experiments, because when I call it research, people expect this documentation thing.
Yeah,
I'm really bad at documenting. That's been an ongoing problem with me. So I just call them experiments. But yes, I ran a meetup in Heidelberg. It was a university town, so I had plenty of volunteers for my experiments. Plus, it was a great base of operations for classes in all the other countries. I mean, Belgium was a 3-hour drive. France was 2 hours. Switzerland was about 2.5 hours. It was just, Poland was 5 hours. So it was really easy to reach all these other countries from my base in Germany. So yes, that's what was going on.
Sean, I wonder, just as something that I think, because we haven't really had you on here a bunch of times yet, and people may not know a whole lot about you. So I think the first question probably that at least I'm curious about is how did, of all of the gin joints in all of the world, how did you end up in one that practices hypnosis? How did you come into hypnosis as opposed to, how'd you get here?
That's one of my favorite lines from Casablanca. Let's see. I was working for the federal government many years ago, and they sent me to a brand new supervisor course, because what the feds like to do is like to move you from office to office, and they just say, okay, now get some experience here, take over here. And so they thought it'd be a good idea to teach me NLP and rapport building techniques so that I could just go and very quickly take charge of an office. So So I loved NLP. I thought it was really interesting stuff. And I started studying and followed it up to Milton Erickson. And then from Erickson, I sort of branched over to Dave Ellman. And that's when I'd say I became a real hypnotist.
So and you're the your connection with the Dave Ellman Institute. You're the what was it? The supervising trainer, or what?
Supervising instructor. Yeah, that's because I ruined Colonel Ellman's retirement. Yeah,
I see.
I was giving a lecture. I was giving a lecture on Dave Ellman, and I did some research, and I was finding the same tired old stories about Dave Ellman, and but then something popped up. I'm pretty good at internet research, and so something popped up, and this name of this guy, Larry Ellman, popped up. And I was like, what is that? And then I saw a reference to a retirement community in Florida. And I went looking on that, and then I found somebody that was helping other members of the community that was with their computers. And then I found something about aviation, a book on aviation. And then I found something about a craft business in North Carolina. Anyway, so I found a telephone number, and I called it, and this guy answered, and I said, may I please speak with Larry Ellman? He said, this is Larry. And I said, I'm a hypnotist, and are you any relation to Dave Ellman? He said, yeah, that was my father. And I said, can I come down and see you and meet you? And he said, yes. And the next day I was on the road, and I brought my camera, and I interviewed him. And I think Colonel Ellman did not know, he knew, of course, he knew his father was a celebrity, a television star and a radio star. And he knew, he was well known with the physicians and dentists as far as teaching hypnosis for pain management and all sorts of different things. But I don't think at that point, he was aware of how famous Ellman had become in the hypnosis community, and continued to be like a big name in the hypnosis community. And so I got to meet him and convinced him to come to a hypnosis convention. And now he's taught in 17 countries around the world. And like I say, I ruined his retirement.
That's great. So when I meet Larry in the hallways at the conferences, almost every year, he begins the conference with the same opening line. This is our routine. He shakes my hand. He says, Michael, it's good to see you. He says, sometime over the course of the weekend, because, we're going to be there for a couple of days. He says, sometime over the course of the weekend, I want to sit down with you and have a chat about what my father had to say about Milton Erickson. And and I tell him, and that'll be great, and I'll be happy to have a chat with you about what Milton Erickson had to say about your dad. And we both laugh, and we have the same conversation every single time, just about that we meet each other. Now I know, Sean, that you're responsible for that.
Not responsible for the Ellman Erickson relationship, not at all. But yeah, I'm responsible for him coming back into the fold, because he dropped out of hypnosis in college, and he's the only guy that took Dave Ellman's course twice.
Yeah.
But he dropped out of hypnosis. Actually, not in college. When he got his commission in the Air Force, because the commanding officer wasn't fond of hypnosis. And so it's not a good idea if your commanding officer isn't fond of something. But yeah.
Well, we're really thankful that you did that, because, as we're saying, we wouldn't know the fellow otherwise. And it's lovely to have him around.
Yeah.
And so partly off of that, you talked. I'm sorry, Michael, did I interrupt you? If you weren't.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So you were talking. We had got this Erickson Ellman interchange going on, and early on, before we got into that, you said, and that's when I discovered I was a real hypnotist. What does that mean, Sean? Now I'm a real hypnotist.
I don't want to get controversial on this.
Hey.
Um, um,
This is your opinion. We get to challenge it if we want.
okay, all right. My opinion. You see, I like trance. Not for myself because I'm not a very good subject, but I do like trance. My views on hypnosis are pretty simplistic because that's just the sort of guy I am, and so it makes sense to me. So for me, hypnosis is when you do the ritual of the induction
Right.
and you get the person hypnotized, and then you deepen that person, and then they are more receptive to suggestions that you give them that are good for them and that they've already approved or they will approve. That's my view on hypnosis. And before I took a real hypnosis course, I took many NLP courses, and I felt that I knew how to hypnotize people. But I think after, when I came to this understanding of what I think hypnosis is, then I think I'm really a hypnotist. I don't, now it's funny because when we get in these conversations about what is hypnosis, it's over my head. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I can't engage in those conversations. I like to listen to them, hoping that I'm going to catch on, but I never do. So I just feel like back when I was studying hypnosis and Ericksonian techniques and metaphors and embedded commands and all this kind of stuff, and artful language, I just, that was not the kind of hypnosis that I do now. My hypnosis is very simple. I do the induction, I do the deepening, and then I do the therapy. And it's very, very different from what I used to do when I was studying NLP. Not to say I don't like NLP, because I use a lot of NLP when I'm doing my therapy in trance, and I feel like, I mean, I love the fast phobia cure. I love anchoring. I love anchor collapse. I love all these techniques, but I like to do them in trance because I just feel like they're supercharged when they're in trance.
I'm
But
right with you on that, Sean. I think that you're absolutely right that NLP and hypnosis are a lovely combination, and they really have something to offer to one another. Just for a perspective in terms of the relationship between, I tend to be more thought of as an Ericksonian guy, which is why Larry says the things to me that he says. I think that there's an interesting misnomer. People are always talking about learning Ericksonian techniques. I have no idea what Ericksonian techniques were. What I know is that everybody that's tried to describe Erickson's techniques has come up with entirely different conclusions. And I think what NLP modeled was something behind the technique, something philosophical that informs NLP, and was a great modeling project that John and Richard did. But what really got me going as a hypnosis trainer is that I came also out of the NLP community, and then I studied with Stephen Gilligan for a while. And so again, I found myself doing what I would call real hypnosis, and it wasn't what they were teaching us in the NLP classes. And the next thing I knew, I realized that there was an entire community, and that is most of the NLP world that I knew at that time, which is the Andreases and Bandler and Grinder's specific camps of their own, where people were being taught a great deal about hypnosis, or at least about Milton Erickson, but nobody was actually being taught to do it. And at the point when I started teaching hypnosis, I had a whole bunch of master practitioners from NLP California say, gosh, we'd really like to take that hypnosis class. And I made a deal with Tom Dotz and NLP California right away. I said, I'm going to teach an Ericksonian hypnosis class to your students. Do you want to get in on it? He said, oh, I think that would probably be a pretty good idea. So, and then I ended up teaching for NLP Comprehensive and, places like that. But I'm the guy who literally took what I thought was real hypnosis into the NLP community to complete that piece. So I like where you're coming from with this, and I think that what we have to offer are really complementary with regard to that. And NLP really gave me a way to think about what's going on with clients.
Yeah, and NLP, I mean, it is, the techniques are so useful. Like, for instance, like one of my favorite techniques is a fast phobia cure, but not for phobias. I mean, it's brilliant for phobias, but what it's really good for is trauma. It takes the juice out of the experience, and man, I mean, it is just amazing. And rather than sitting there for 15 minutes doing Fritz Perls and empty chair technique, trying to get forgiveness, and it's just, it's just, forgiveness. That's something. My favorite technique now from NLP is, I want to mention this. Some of you may have known Michael Bennett. And Michael Bennett taught me something that gives me chills when I think about it, but it's the most wonderful forgiveness technique that I've ever experienced, ever used. And perhaps you've seen something similar to this, but the way he taught me was that you imagine that the offender, the person that did the terrible thing to this person, is on the other side of the room. And as you look at that person on the other side of the room, what is the one resource that that person didn't have, that if they had it, not have done this to you? And, give them some suggestions. It could have been love, could have been maturity, could have been whatever. But anyway, they will give you something. They'll say, well, love. Okay, well, and then you have to tell a little fib to your client, but it's just a little fib. And you say, I've only known you for about half an hour, but I'm a very good judge of character. And I can tell you have a lot of love inside of you. And they always nod and smile and agree with you. Reason why is that they will always pick a resource that they feel they have in abundance. Sure. And it's all right.
Because it's one that other son of a bitch should have had.
Exactly. But it's always something that your client feels that he or she has in abundance. So then you say, all right, you build it up, and then I'll anchor it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, building, and you start pouring that resource into that baddie, right? And watch how he's changing. My client's sitting there and her eyes are closed, but I'm saying, look what you're doing. Look how you're changing him. Look how he's changing. And it's fill him up all the way to the top, all the way, and just fill the room with this love or whatever resource she came up with. And then I say, now look at how you've changed him. And then say, so with all that love that you put into him, do you think he could do that again? They always say no. And the forgiveness is automatic. And I mean, I've had so much luck with that. And Michael Bennett taught me that. And I like to attribute when I can remember who taught me something. But anyway, he taught me that. And I swear to God, I have had such good results with clients using that to get forgiveness for people that have done horrible, awful things to them. And it's just, I don't know, it's just great. So that is a fantastic technique. But that's another one where it's an NLP technique, but I think supercharged when it's in hypnosis and trance.
Yeah, beautiful. So, by the way, I mean, I could talk about that forever. And there's another forgiveness process in NLP as well that one can look up. It comes from Steve Andreas, and it's a submodality thing, and really very nice. But I really like that one. And by the way, Sean, I got to tell you, I can hardly wait until tomorrow, because I'm going to play this over again.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to get to hear that for a second time.
Let me mention one other thing, Michael, because this is important. When you ask your client, you say, what is the one resource? Because they might come up with 20 if you don't limit them. So what is the one resource?
Probably the magic one. Great. That's great to know. So when you switched over to practicing real hypnosis,
yes,
of course, aided and abetted by the unconscious wisdom that NLP in acquiring, you also I understand that you have been teaching a nurse. I don't know if you're still teaching it or not. The nurse anesthetist.
No, I haven't done that in a long time.
Okay, but can you tell us about that anyway? I'm fascinated in how that works. And
okay, well, that was when I was teaching for Captain Esslinger's school, and then also I taught a class in Adelaide, South Australia, for well, they call themselves anesthetists there, not anesthesiologists. So it was basically a pain course. But when I taught for Captain Esslinger, it was also a certification class. So it ran the gamut of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, but heavy on the pain management. So I'm very, very interested in using hypnosis for pain management.
Cool,
So
lovely.
all of this stuff is very serious stuff, Sean. I mean, pain management and nurse anesthetist and forgiveness work and stuff like that. How did you become the world's fastest sane hypnotist?
Well, because I bought that website, Karen.
Well, how did it all roll over?
One of my students said I'm the world's fastest website URL buyer or whatever. Well, actually, you know, that just was that's not really who I am. I mean, I am a hypnotherapist. I like to work with people and help them out and help them over problems and overcome pain and that sort of thing. But that's not what I'm known for. I'm known for the instant inductions.
Right.
And yeah, it's just kind of funny, but I think 2007, not 11 years ago, almost 12, we were on vacation in Ocean City, Maryland, and my boys and I decided to do some entertainment on the boardwalk in Ocean City. And I'd been doing instant inductions for quite a while. And we went down there and we were hypnotizing people on the boardwalk, and it was great fun. I hadn't done it since, well, I started doing it probably in 2005, but I didn't really get into it until 2007. And yeah, it was great fun, and people seemed to like, Tad, how are you? I haven't seen you in ages. Tad just popped in. So anyway, but so I don't know. I guess it catches people's imagination, but really, I am a hypnotherapist, but I like doing street hypnosis and I like doing stage hypnosis, but I do more hypnotherapy.
Okay.
It's so interesting that you say that's what you do more of, and I've known you for years, and I've always known you primarily as the stage hypnotist or the street hypnotist.
Yeah, stage is really cool, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think most people who see a hypnotherapist learn about hypnosis because of they see a stage show, and that's what brings people, makes them consider going into. Hello, Jim. But anyway, that's what brings people to hypnosis. A couple of years ago, I did something at IMDHA. I wish I had put in for it this year, but I didn't, and I don't know why I didn't. But I did something there in Daytona a couple of years ago where I did an after-hours sort of hypnosis shows for hypnotherapists. And we're getting some feedback here. It might be Tad. Tad, is that you?
Yeah, we need you.
That might be me.
Yeah,
Tad, stop it right now.
Is that better?
Tad,
No.
Tad, what we're doing is I'm going to mute your microphone, and we'll open it up for questions and answers in a bit. But I hope
Okay.
Anyway, so anyway, I did a little. It was sort of a combination of a show and lecture, telling the room full of hypnotherapists what they need to know about what happens in shows. And so when their clients say, well, I saw a hypnotist, what's the difference between that and what you do? And so they would know, they could speak from a position of, with knowledge about what happens in hypnosis shows. And like I say, I should have put that on this year, but I didn't.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it would have been great fun. As a matter of fact, as I recall, Karen Hand was a participant in your hypnosis show 2 years ago. All right.
Yes, I was.
where are you, Karen? Oh,
Yes, at I
that's
had
right.
last year, wasn't it, or was it 2 years?
No, it was at least 2 years ago, maybe 3.
Well,
But
here's
okay.
for you, Sean. I would never, absolutely never volunteer for us. I, like you, am a little too analytical. I would never go along with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about mindset, isn't it? And this is what we teach our clients. It's all about mindset. I went into that show with Cheryl Ellman. We were laughing. We were having a good time. We were playing around. And I said, I'm going in and just going to have the time of my life. Sean came around through the audience and he stuck our fingers, I don't know, stuck something together. And then Cheryl leaned over and said, I'm going to stick your hand to your leg and you're not going to be able to move that either. And I said, okay, I can't move that either. That's wonderful. I was having a blast. And all of a sudden I found myself up on stage and just having a blast. So, yeah, it was a really good time. But I want to say to you, Sean, part of that is because I trust you. I know you and trust you and knew that I was safe. And I think that's what we all do in clinical hypnosis, is it not?
Gosh.
That we have to build that rapport. Once we have that rapport, we can almost get away with anything.
Yeah, rapport is essential. It's funny. I Keith Livingston, a friend of mine, I don't know if you guys know him. Keith once told me that a hypnotist that doesn't know NLP is it's like they're operating with one hand time behind their back, and it's true. Rapport building is essential to a hypnotist because, you know, we work with people that have had really rough lives and they've had horrible things happen to them, often at the hands of guys, right? So they come into my office and they have most of my clients are women. I don't know about you, but most of my clients are women. Yeah. And they come into my office. They've never met me. I close the door. I dim the lights. I ask them to close their eyes and submit to a process that they have no familiarity with. And it's a wonder that I can get anybody into trance, because that's scary. But from the moment they call me, I'm establishing rapport. And they come into the office, and within like 30 seconds, they know that this guy's okay. I trust him. He wants to help me, which I am okay. and I do want to help my clients. But using NLP rapport building techniques, I can convey that to them very quickly, get them to trust me and believe that I have their best interest at heart, which I do. But NLP rapport building techniques allow me to convey that to them. And so, I mean, without those rapport building techniques, gosh, I don't know if I'd get anybody into trance. It's just difficult. But yeah, so that, I mean, NLP rapport building techniques changed my life. I was talking about my sister Terry, and Terry was the most popular girl in school. She's my younger sister, and everybody loved Terry. If you met her, you would love her. Like immediately. That's just the type of person she was. And I used to envy Terry because Terry, everybody loved her, but I had difficulty establishing that kind of rapport with people. And when I discovered NLP, I thought, oh my God, this is magic. This is like Terry in a bottle, you know. You can use this stuff and people will think you're okay. And I thought, you know, and you're only using it just to, I feel like rapport building techniques, people say, well, that can be misused. But I think if your heart is pure and all you want is to make people feel comfortable and make people feel good, I think, you know, why not use it? I think it's good. So yeah, I'm sorry, that was kind of long-winded, but.
That's great.
But anything can be misused. I mean,
Probably.
anything at all. A medical doctor, an MD, could misuse his skills, her skills.
Yeah.
So anything could be misused. We're just trusting that most people are using it for good.
Yeah. And I really believe that I don't live in a world where somebody could do that, misuse it for very long before they're found out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that it catches up. So yeah, but I love it, and it changed my life, and it enabled me to establish relationships with people that weren't possible before I learned it.
Well, and the good Dr. Erickson does tell us that hypnosis is a relationship, and this is exactly it. I think that this is maybe more wise than any Ericksonian technique that anybody has ever taught. That hypnosis is a relationship, and that when we pair this up with NLP and we think about rapport is about pacing, but it's also about leading. That becomes possible by pacing. So we can get the responses out of hypnosis that we want to be able to get. We can move the hypnotic dialogue in the direction that it needs to go because we have achieved rapport, and because we can use these tools to move the interaction forward in a meaningful way.
Right. Michael, as long as you're talking about that, in NLP, we always say pace, 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 lead. I've given up on lead.
It's funny because, by the way, Richard Bandler says lead, 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 lead.
Yeah. Well, that's just the sort of guy he is. but no, I just figure if you pace, they'll do anything that you want.
Well, that's right. That's right.
And so because they like you, they trust you, they say, okay, sounds good, provided it's something that is good for them, which it always is.
Yeah. So here's the deal. You've got all these great tools, and stage hypnosis and street hypnosis we've talked about just a little bit, and those certainly are delightful things. And now we're talking about what makes them possible is the quality of connection that you establish with people, and it moves us right to where we want to go. And that is, how is it that you take that information that comes from working, in stage and street hypnosis? How does that impact the way that you then work in your office, as opposed to what other hypnotists do as you see it? What's kind of unique about your practice because of that?
I think I have a lot of confidence. When someone comes into my office, I know they're going to get hypnotized, and I've taught in just like Colonel Elman. I've taught in 17 countries, different countries from him. I've taught in 17 countries, and one of the things that I've found is that in all those countries I've taught in, there is an issue that many hypnotists have, and that is that a lot of people who are hypnotists, when someone comes into their office for hypnotherapy, those people, many of them, are not absolutely certain that they're going to get that person in a trance. And I think, wow, that's I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine any other profession where, a bricklayer who's not absolutely certain that he can make this wall straight, or a plumber who's not absolutely certain that he can do these pipe fittings and that they won't leak? I mean, it's just, it's incomprehensible. But many hypnotists are not absolutely certain in their ability to put people into trance. And but in doing street hypnosis, because I did street hypnosis, my confidence in my ability to do that is really, really high. Because if you can hypnotize somebody on the street, you should have no trouble whatsoever hypnotizing somebody who came into your office for the purpose of getting hypnotized. So, walking up to strangers and hypnotizing them on the street gave me an incredible amount of confidence. And now all I have to do is concentrate on the therapy, or with stage, all I have to concentrate on is being a good showman. But I don't worry that I'm going to hypnotize people, because that's a foregone conclusion. They're going to get hypnotized.
Nice.
And all of that is part of what we're doing, right? I mean, that's all part of the nonverbal communication. If you don't know, the subconscious is going to be broadcasting that out to your client, and they're going to know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to feel confident about achieving the state that they need to achieve.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, all of us were there but once before, you know, first client, you know, and you're very nervous and you got your induction and is this thing going to work or not? And, you know, we've all been there in the beginning, but yeah, the street hypnosis really, really helped in that case.
So what's your favorite thing that you learned from doing street hypnosis? What kind of grabbed you and went, wow, I can use that with everybody?
Testing clients to prove to them that they're hypnotized. I test every client before they leave the office because it's useful, of course, for the client to realize that he or she was hypnotized. It gives them a lot more confidence in the therapy that you've done. So I lock their eyes shut. I make their arms so stiff and rigid that it won't bend. And then I'll just take their hand and stick it to the arm of the chair and challenge them to try and lift it off the chair. And of course they can't. And then I'll ask them, so do you think maybe you're in an altered state or do you think you're hypnotized? And they'll say yes. And then I will go ahead and merge them from hypnosis. So, and that's an interesting thing because with the testing, I experimented with that because I thought, well, what if I did the testing earlier in the session? So what I would do is I'd hypnotize them, deepen them, and then stick their hand to the arm of the chair, and they couldn't get their hand off the chair. So, but the reason why, we're back up a little bit. The reason why I did this testing was because I didn't like it when people came out of hypnosis and said, I'm not sure I was hypnotized. So if I stick your hand to the chair, you're pretty sure that, I mean, you don't normally stick to the furniture, right? So you're pretty sure that you were hypnotized. Okay. So anyway, so I moved the test from the end of the session to the beginning of the session after the deepeners. Still had the same results, but a couple of them said, yeah, but I'm still not sure I was hypnotized. I thought, that's weird. And I moved it to the middle of the session. And one person said, yeah, but I think I could have picked my hand up. So I moved it back to the end of the session, and that seemed to work the best because, and I think it's because of the recency factor, okay? Because just before I emerged them, their hand was stuck to the chair and they couldn't get it off. So I see that, Cheryl. so then I emerged them from hypnosis, and since their hand was stuck to the chair only like a minute ago, they tend to believe they were hypnotized more so than if I did it earlier in the session. But anyway, now I just realized the thread here. So the thread was working on my how I did the testing. I worked on it when I was doing street hypnosis because I'd stick people to light poles and fire hydrants and stuff. So it made me feel pretty bulletproof. So that's one of the things I got out of street hypnosis.
So one of the things I got out of stage hypnosis was sticking the fingers together.
Yeah.
And I will, with almost every client, I can't say exactly every client, but with almost every client, I will stick their fingers together while we're talking. So now we're talking primacy as opposed to recency. So talking with their eyes wide awake, hearing every word I'm saying, they have their fingers stuck together. And the moment they go, wow, that was so weird, then I'm able to say, yes, how cool is that? And you did that wide awake, hearing every single word I said, knowing everything that was going on. Imagine how incredible it will be when we do formal hypnosis. And now we're already convinced that they can be hypnotized. I've said, and now you and I both know that you can be hypnotized.
I like that.
And so that I think is exactly what you're saying about where you put it. And honestly, Sean, I don't think it matters that much where you put it, as long as you're confident that that's going to work, right?
Yeah, your confidence is really important.
Right. And knowing that you can do it. What do you take from your stage shows to your office?
I think one of the things that I take from the stage shows is when people come in and they say, you know, what's the difference? They ask, what's the difference between this and stage hypnosis? I can speak from a position of knowledge. I can answer any questions that they have. And that was what I liked about the, you know, doing that thing at IMDHA, which was a lot of hypnotherapists really don't know how stage hypnosis works. You know, it's a numbers game. You kick people off the stage that don't go deep enough or aren't animated enough. I mean, it's made me sort of a good all around hypnotist because there's stage hypnosis, there's street hypnosis, and there's hypnotherapy, and so it gave me the opportunity to experience all three disciplines and made me a better all-around hypnotist
and observer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Observer when you're managing a whole group of people on the stage.
Yeah, that's hard, but I really think that the biggest thing in stage hypnosis is being a showman or showwoman.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because you know, hypnotizing those people that's not hard, but actually putting on a performance, and you've got a media background, you know what that's all about. You know, it's about being the performer, and I think that's the most important thing about stage hypnosis, and that's probably where I fall down, because you know, I don't have a background in performance, so that's the hard part for me in stage hypnosis, is being the showman.
Sure.
It's hard.
And also, Sean, isn't and this is just a guess on my part because I don't do stage hypnosis, but I'm assuming that another part of it, if you think about it, is your capacity as not just what you do as a showman, but your capacity to cast a production, in the sense that you're the guy who ultimately decides who it is that's going to be on the stage and who it is that's going to be entertaining the audience. And so certainly it's got to be about shaping the committee in order to be able to get the kind of responses that you want. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you make mistakes sometimes. I mean, sometimes you use particular people for a certain skit, and I mean, case in point, when I did the show, when my friend Kenda and I did the show at IMDHA years ago. God, it was about 7 years ago. Anyway, there was a fellow in the committee who was really, really deep. And after the show, he said, man, I was so deep. Why didn't you use me because you have group skits and then you have individual skits where you normally pick your stars for that. And he said, man, I was so deep. Why didn't you use me for one of those skits? And quite honestly, I didn't judge him as being super deep in hypnosis. So you make mistakes, but you just have to be right more often than you're wrong.
And that's true in your office, in the clinical environment as well. I mean, things happen in the clinical environment too. You think you've got it nailed. You think you know exactly what's going to happen, and something doesn't go exactly right. You got to be flexible, and you got to be able to dance. That's
why continuing education is so important, because there are techniques. I mean, there are techniques that I haven't used. You know what? The last time I used Timeline was about 4 years ago. But when I used it, it was right. It was perfect for this particular client. And so, yeah, it's good to have a lot of different techniques that you can use. But honestly, it's funny. I mean, there are techniques that I haven't used in years, but you know, there might be a time where, and that's another thing about doing hypnotherapy. When you're seeing a bunch of clients, and I'm not right now. Now I'm concentrating on teaching. But when you're seeing a bunch of clients, like at least 6 a day or something like that, 5, 6 a day, I think you're sharper, because it just seems like things just click. You just like, this is what I'll do. And you feel, well, it's maybe a personal thing, but I feel like I'm more in a flow when I'm seeing bunches of clients than if I'm seeing just the occasional client. So yeah, I don't know what your experience is, but that's mine.
Yeah, I sure agree with you about that. Sean, I'm a little disappointed though, because what I had understood, what I was expecting, was that what you were going to tell us about is that one client that you had who said, he'd gone to see Shawn Michael. At least this is what I heard. At least he'd gone to see Shawn Michael to stop smoking, and in fact he did stop smoking in one session. However, every time he sees somebody else with a cigarette, he sings like Elvis Presley.
That's not one of my skits. That's somebody else.
But it's a good point, Michael, and it leads me to this point that another thing I learned from the stage hypnosis realm, as far as I understand it, Sean, and you're the expert on this, I'm not, but as far as I understand it, you wouldn't ask somebody on stage to do something they couldn't do, or they would be caught doing wrong. In other words, you might ask them to speak like a Martian, but you wouldn't ask them to speak Japanese.
I think that it's a judgment call. I don't feel. Let's see. All right, we're gonna keep this non-controversial. Martian is cool because when you tell them that you speak Martian, then you give them an idea as to what that is. Like, they may have no idea what Martian sounds like. I mean, personally, I do, because I've done it so many times. I know what Martian sounds like. I'm actually a professionalized Martian linguist, and I can. But anyway, I shouldn't brag. But anyway, so once you've given the suggestion that you speak only Martian, then you help yourself out, because you say, it's interesting, and you're talking to the audience now, but of course your person in the chair hears it, of course. So you say, I love this part because I never know what the Martian's going to sound like. Sometimes it sounds like robot talk. Sometimes it's just beeps and grunts, and sometimes it sounds like, just give them some ideas. Meanwhile, your person in the chair is taking this in, and then they give you a good rendition of Martian, which is, it's always good, as long as you remember to get the microphone up to his mouth. But anyway, no. So I love the Martian skit. The Martian skit, of course, for people who don't do stage hypnosis, that's the one that you keep for later on in the show, because you need people in a deeper trance in order to pull off that particular skit. I mean, you always see people, every hypnotist in the world does a hot and cold skit. Hot and cold skit for the band, the orchestra. Every hypnotist does it. Why? Because it works really well when people are in a light level of trance. But when you want to get something that requires a positive or negative hallucination, or a personality change, like become the Martian captain, you need a deeper trance. So that's why you see those skits toward the end of the show. So, yeah.
Well, and nicely that while you're talking and describing the various ways that Martian might sound and all of that stuff, and as you mentioned, the person is listening. Here's kind of my segue back to how this relates to therapeutic processes as well, because what you're doing in that is you're using that time to build response potential. The client is already inside working out their Martian dialect, either consciously or un. And in the same way, isn't it often the case that when we're preparing people for some therapeutic change, that this idea about being able to create a gestation process, as it were, or some time for them to develop an appropriate response is a key skill?
I'm not sure how to answer that, Michael.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like there are very similar things to something that might happen in hypnosis if you want to sow the seeds for something that's going to occur later, so that they start.
Yes. I'm pretty impatient.
Okay.
And the thought of sowing the seeds for them for a client to make the change is not. I mean, I like the idea, but I like to go for the kill,
Sure.
right,
Sure.
very quickly. But if I can't get it, then certainly sowing the seeds. Yeah, I see a lot.
I don't necessarily.
Describe what you mean. I've got to stop you and say, describe what you mean by go for the kill. immediately.
Well, when Michael talks about, when you talk about sowing the seeds, the first
I
thing that
understand sowing the seeds.
sorry.
I understand sowing the seeds.
Yeah, no, but I mean, when Michael says that, I think about what pops into my mind is a client that is resistant to making a change right now, and so that may not be at all what you were saying, Michael, but that was what popped into my mind, and if I had a client that was being resistant, I would have no problem whatsoever sowing the seeds so that in a later session we could dive in and knock out that problem. But I'm sorry, that's what I was thinking about, that may be not at all what you were talking about.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly what I was talking about, but your response is a useful one nonetheless. I mean, it's, and I think I agree with you. I was thinking actually more in terms of things that, the truth of the matter is we're creating response potential with that phone call. We're creating response potential when we start developing a relationship with a client. We're creating response potential when they say that they'd like to stop smoking, and we're like, that's really great. I'm glad that you've decided it's time to do that. All of those things are beginning to build response potential, and maybe even in a trance. And probably just because I am an Ericksonian rather, I might have a tendency to say something like, and there are a variety of ways that a person can experience hypnosis. And, and I was working with a woman the other day, and she did it like this. And there's this other experience that I've had where a person did this or that or the other thing. It's the variety of ways that someone could speak Martian.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what I was understanding you to say, Michael. Yeah.
There you go.
So,
well, you know me.
Well, I do. I do know you. I can read between those lines. So what else have you taken, or what do you share from stage, street, and clinical? What are some tips you can give us on using some of those sort of showmanship kinds of things, or those convincers?
Okay. Well, one really big use for this is to get clients. One of the best ways to get clients is to give presentations to service clubs and other groups. And the stage techniques and street techniques are really invaluable when it comes to convincing people that hypnosis is real and you are an outstanding therapist.
Yeah.
So if you do an instant induction at the Lions Club, everyone will be amazed. They'll see somebody they know go into instant trance, and at that moment they know that you can fix any problem they have. It may not be true, but that's what they believe, because they've just seen you drop Nancy into instant hypnosis. So it really makes you look 10 times better than you are. I mean, it's just the impression that it gives. That's the big thing. And also, like I say, it just increases your confidence at an incredible rate. So that's the thing. I would say public speaking, the stage and the street techniques are key to my ability to present in those sorts of environments. And they're great for party tricks.
Yeah. And you know what's really lovely about that too is that oh my gosh!
Think of something, Michael.
I know. I got the first half of that sentence out, and I'm like, "What the hell was I about ready to say?" Is that stage hypnosis, as I understand it, and again, this is certainly your terrain and not mine, but as I understand it, and as I have seen it, is it utilizes a whole lot of phenomena. Things like, as you mentioned, positive and negative hallucinations, and hand and arm levitations, and cold and warm, and all of these phenomenological things that I think a lot of hypnotists underutilize, because they really are not only powerful convincers, they are evidence of the capacity of hypnosis to influence a person's experience.
Well, yeah, I think the stage and street work probably enabled me to be a more to be a better observer of hypnotic phenomena with my clients. That's for sure. It enabled me to hypnotize so many more people than it would. I mean, you know, a busy practice, you're only going to hypnotize 6 people a day or something like that. But on the street, you can do 20 to 30 people in a couple of hours. So so you get to see hypnosis. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that I probably use, I try not to take the stage stuff into the therapy room. And the street stuff, other than the confidence that I have in the ability to hypnotize and deepen people. Other than that, I mean, I try to play it straight when I'm doing the therapy.
Yeah.
So if
Well,
somebody
one thing,
a stage show and then they come into your office for therapy, do they ever ask you, are you going to make me bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken?
You know, it's great that you asked that.
Okay,
Great
good.
that you asked that, Karen. I have never made anybody bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken or quack like a duck. And I hope to go to my grave being able to say that statement, you know, and make it and have it be truthful.
what animal sounds do you use?
Well, actually, one of my friends, God, she's been my friend for a long time, Denise Hall, and she was the one that did the show in Chicago, and she taught me something. She said sometimes she's doing high school shows, and you'll have a kid on stage who is cursing. And of course, you can't have that in a high school show. So she'll say, if you ever feel the need to cuss, the only thing that will come out of your mouth is an animal sound, which is actually kind of funny. But no, and I like that. But no, I have never and will never make anybody quack like a duck or bark like a dog. But who in here? I see we have 21 people in here. Who in here has not been asked, are you going to make me bark like a dog? We've all heard it, right?
Right. And that's why I was asking you. And so since they've seen you do a stage show, and that's the common understanding of what stage hypnotists do,
Right.
do you have a response for that?
I just say, you know, this is serious therapy, and no, I've never done that. That's old stuff. Those are the guys with the pocket watches and everything like that. No, it's because actually most of the people who see me for therapy don't know about the street work or stage work that I do. That most people don't. But if they did, I would just explain it to them. I'd say, no, this is the way it works. But actually, because I've done that, it makes me a better hypnotist, so I can do a better job for you. But no, this is very serious stuff.
Well, and that is old stuff. Nowadays, of course, you could have them talk like Siri.
Siri, that's what I want. I want a listening device in my house. I think that's a great idea. I think.
Great.
So I don't know, Sean, if I were to ask you to do something like that, what sound does a dog make?
Oh, exactly. Yes, and then you get them to make the noise. You don't require hypnosis to do that.
Okay, you covered that. Now that's been done. Now let's move along.
Yes, of course.
Right. Or do you think it'll help? If that will. And then they say, no, I don't think it'll help. Well, then let's not do that. That would make sense.
That's right. But we need the eggs, right? Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, Sean,
Yes.
I just realized I haven't given you a chance yet. We'd like to hear if you got anything coming up or programs, stuff that people should know about, could know about.
Well, I've got the second class at my new facility. I opened my new facility recently, and I ran my first class last month, and I have another 2-day class on instant and rapid inductions coming up in January. So it's in beautiful Augusta, Georgia, and where it's a lot warmer than it is in Chicago.
Yes.
Not as warm as it is in Orlando. So I've got that. I have a class in Germany in March, and lots of stuff going on. But yeah, that and mentorships. I had a physician do a mentorship with me 2 weeks ago, and that's something that's been kind of fun because I get to spend 2 days with somebody. What we do is we engineer, we put together a class with everything that they want to know. In his case, he wanted to know more about doing hypnotic inductions and also pain management. And so that's what we did. We built the course around him, and then I bring in a practice partner, and he just went 2 days just learning this. And yeah, so I have people come in and spend 2 days with me, but it's pretty expensive. So
Right. Good. Well, and probably worth every penny of it. So
well, I try to make it that way.
well, yeah. I mean, it's sort of funny. It's one of those relative things I think that we talk about all the time in terms of the cost of training and the cost of classes and stuff. I can't think of any other profession on the planet where you can really be a professional, work with clients on a regular, ongoing basis, and do it for the educational costs that most of us have spent training as hypnotists, and the educational time, as opposed to the 10 years in school, and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that folks put out for other careers. So
yeah, well, and still I think that I learned more from my clients than I did in any class. It was amazing when I started seeing clients. That's what really made me, a good hypnotist, because yeah, that's where we learn in doing it. And that's an unfortunate thing, because most hypnotists around the world don't see a lot of clients, and so they don't get that opportunity to get good.
yeah,
Yeah. And it is really hard. I mean, going to class is great, and
yeah,
it's invaluable. But gosh, if you're seeing a bunch of clients, that's where you really learn.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, in classes, quite frankly, you're usually doing hypnosis with other people that are drinking the same Kool-Aid at the same time. So much better to have people on the street, or as you said, where you get to do them one after another. They haven't got any indoctrination or any particular ideas about how it's supposed to be or what you're supposed to do, and you have to think on your feet. I think many hypnotherapists get out into the world, and when they're ready to start, they have basically done hypnosis with 5 people who are in their class.
Right. Hey, you know what? You just reminded me of something, Michael. This is, since I've got a bunch of hypnotists on here, maybe I could, drop this sort of idea on you and see what you think about it. As I say, I do a lot of experiments. In Heidelberg, I did a lot of experiments on hypnotizability. What makes somebody more hypnotizable than someone else? And that was fascinating to me. But I did that because I don't like to fail. If I'm doing street hypnosis, I want to pick, or stage hypnosis, I want to pick the best people. So I did a lot of experiments on picking the best people. So, I mean, now I don't fail. I can't fail, because when I'm in front of, 100 people, that would be embarrassing. That would make me sad.
There you go. And
if I tried to hypnotize somebody and they didn't go into hypnosis. So I did a lot on that. But, oh God, now I'm losing my train of thought. Help me, Michael. Help me.
I'm sorry, I can't do it. But do you see the naked leprechauns underneath your chair, Sean?
Yeah, I'm about the size of one. Karen, what were you saying?
We were talking about, you've got to practice. You've got to actually work with clients. You've got to have all sorts of things come up for you. Does that ring any bells?
Not a one.
Let me just throw this out stop thinking about that for a moment. Yeah. And let me throw this out to say that if you have any questions for Sean, we're getting close to the end of this. So
good idea.
Chat room and type them in, or let us know that you want to ask the question so that we can get to that too. Okay.
I'm ready for that. So while we're watching for the questions, by the way,
Right.
I do have something that I must say, and I will be
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, Michael. I just remembered it. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here, so I've got 21 hypnotists here.
Oh, yeah.
The Esdale State, okay? And Elman said that he laid out some tests for the Esdale State. And one of them is body catalepsy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, and often demonstrated by taking their arms and putting them out, you know. So I've heard somebody said it was like like they were driving a Harley Davidson, right? Their arms like that in catalepsy. And many of you have seen that. Okay. And I've seen it demonstrated in a lot of classes and that sort of thing. However, in my experiments with non-hypnotists that are totally unknowledgeable, right? They don't know anything about the Esdale State. That kind of catalepsy, I don't see it. I see floppy. When I say catalepsy, I mean total rigidity or totally flaccid, okay? And I do not see the rigid catalepsy when I'm doing experiments with people who are non-hypnotists and have no experience with the Esdale State. So that's what I've been seeing. And there are people that are far more knowledgeable, and as Simpson is probably one. Well, not probably, she's one, but I haven't talked with her about that. But that kind of puzzles me.
You're talking about developing it naturally as opposed to a suggestion for stiff and rigid or something like that.
It should happen naturally, at least as I was trained, and I do not see that. So, but if I do it with a hypnotist who has seen it before, that's what they do. They go rigid. But everybody else, don't see it. So anyway, just wanted to drop that out there. If any of you have any experience with that as far as getting the rigidity or not getting it, drop me an email at Sean@worldsfastesthypnotist.com. I'd love to get your experience on it. But anyway, okay, I'm just happy to. Okay, sorry, Michael. I interrupted you, but I was in grave danger of forgetting it again.
That's fine.
I'm pleased. And I want to give you a plug, Sean, if you don't mind.
I hate puns.
Sean at the World's Fastest Hypnotist. Can someone log on to your or get involved in your newsletter through that site?
Oh, thank you, Karen. Yeah. If they go on to worldsfastesthypnotist.com, they can, is a pop-up, and all you do is put your email in there. And I do the newsletter every Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern time in the morning. And actually the last newsletter was really funny because I had what to do when you go to a Christmas party and people say, "You're a hypnotist, can you show me something?" And what do you do? And so I outlined how you approach it, how you make sure people know you're a hypnotist, a couple of suggestibility tests, and then working up to doing an induction, and then a couple of simple but very respectful skits that you can do at a party. So the newsletter is actually, this is issue number 400. I've been doing these for, my goodness, probably coming on 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a big fan of newsletters, but I want to say I am a fan of Sean's. That's why I brought it up, because there's always usable information that comes with a nice video, and it's short and it's to the point and it doesn't take all day, and I can learn something in about 10 minutes or less.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that.
So again, you can sign up for that at your website. Is that right?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes, at worldsfastesthypnotist.com.
Worldsfastesthypnotist.com.
Yes.
Excellent. I do have to, and forgive me because we are about to run out of time, and I made a mistake at the beginning, and I will lose my job if I don't do this. There's one announcement that I did not make, and that is on the weekend of February the 2nd and 3rd, IACT and IMDHA are once again offering the Galaxy of the Stars. Some people might be familiar with it. When IACT and IMDHA merged in order to basically satisfy the Detroit audience that had been part of IMDHA, they did, aside from the convention, a weekend in Detroit every year. And I believe that they did a Galaxy of the Stars in Los Angeles as well a couple of times. And the idea was it was a weekend with 4 presenters, each had a half a day to present some larger topic. So as opposed to the usual things that we get at conferences with 20 or 30 speakers, I proposed to them that they might think about doing it again with what I listed as the 4 biggies, and the 4 biggies being smoking, weight loss, pain management, and stress and anxiety. And so on February 2nd and 3rd, that weekend, the Galaxy of the Stars will be online. And you can register for it at the a.k.a. website. And the 4 presenters will be, I'm trying to think, I'm one of them. The first one will be Sean Carson. The first one will be Sean Carson, I believe, who's talking about smoking. Some of you may know Sean is one of the authors of the Quit Smoking book that they put together. So he's going to present on that. Kelly Woods, some of you know, and Kelly will be presenting on weight loss. She has also authored a book on weight loss. And because of her authorship there, she seemed the right person for that. Weight control, we have a woman named Lois Prinz who has written a book and teaches a whole lot of seminars. And then based on my experience with stress, I am going to do that one. So, so it will be.
Let me just clarify something. I may have misheard, but I thought I heard you say Lois was doing weight management. She's doing.
No, I'm sorry, Lois. Lois is doing pain.
Yeah. Kelly is doing weight and Lois is doing pain.
And I'm doing stress and anxiety. So or emotional, actually freeing the emotional hostage is the title of my talk. So and each of those will be a half a day long. So it's a whole weekend for $99 if you sign up before the end of the year. Then the price goes up to I think $129 or $139. I'm not sure. So a.k.a.'s website would be the place for you to get information about that. So forgive me for not bringing it up before. We have run to the end of our time. I do think, just to be fair, that there was a question from Antonio Perez, and I believe that it's addressed to you specifically, Sean. He's asked, did anything ever come about in regards to training people to become somnambulistic? He said, I vaguely remember you talking about something in relationship to this, and the Spiegel eye roll. Was that directed to you?
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have anything good to report, Antonio.
Yeah.
It's funny. Bernheim and Charcot and Libaud and all those guys talking about people being somnambulists, and talked about them being, well, many of them said about 20% of people are somnambulists, or in my experience, 35 to 40% of the people that I see on the screen here. And then I started studying hypnosis, and I was told that everybody could be a somnambulist, but it's the definition. What is somnambulism? And Ellman's definition of somnambulism is very different from Bernheim's definition of somnambulism. So in my experience, if I use Bernheim's definition, somnambulism, the dividing line is true amnesia. Then, and often amnesia that isn't even suggested. Person comes out of hypnosis and goes, what happened in the last hour? I have no idea. Okay. So that's a very small group of people. And what I wanted, because when you're doing stage performances and street performances, you want the somnambulist. You want the person that can give you really good phenomena like hallucinations and that sort of thing. But I have been unable to get more than one person out of 5 to that type of trance. I want so badly to be a somnambulist. If anybody out there, anybody who watches the replay, or the people right here, if anybody thinks that they can get people who are non-somnambulists to be in somnambulism, God, I want to talk to you, because I mean, those of us who are not somnambulists want to be, but I don't know it's possible. And none of the experiments I've done have given me any optimism making that.
Well, so you guys give Shawn Michaels some optimism and do this so that he'll be able to do this. All that I know is I'm asking myself the very question that you just asked a moment ago, Shawn Michael, and that is what did happen during the last hour, because the time has flown by so quickly. I'm so glad that I have the recording so that I can listen to it tomorrow and
Me too. I kind of checked out there. Yeah.
and you too can all have copies of the recording if you go to the virtual chapter on Facebook group, and it will be posted there tomorrow. It'll be posted again in the IMDHA forum before noon tomorrow, God willing, and the creek don't rise, as they say. And also in the virtual chapters YouTube channel. So look for the recording, and now, Shawn, we're going to do something wild and reckless. My favorite part of the program, and that is that we are going to take everybody off mute in a moment, so that all at once, in a great cacophony of love and affection, we can thank you for your time and being with us tonight.
Before you do that, Michael, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Karen, for inviting me. This has been, I mean, spend an hour and a half talking about my favorite subject. It's always fun. So thank you both so much for inviting me.
You're really welcome. And next month, by the way, we're going to have Shawn Carson on as our guest 2 times in a row. And Shawn is going to be talking about using the tarot as a coaching tool. He did a brilliant presentation in Chicago with this that we were blown away by. So we had to get him here. And and the month after that, we are going to have Freddie Jacquin as well. So a couple exciting presentations coming up. Karen, you got anything to say to these folks?
I just want to say thank you for joining us as always, and let us write to us or join us on the Facebook group if you've got suggestions. If you have somebody you're pining away, one of the reasons that we have Freddie Jacquin is because on the Facebook group Hypnotic Women there was a lot of chatter about the arrow and how do we get in touch with Freddie Jacquin, etc. And I said, you know what? Maybe it's time to have him on the virtual chapter. And there was such an outpouring of yes, please, that we contacted him, and he's going to stay up until the middle of the night and do this with us. So
you spoke, and we heard you.
Let us know if there's somebody you want to see or some topic that you are interested in. Let us know about that.
And we know already that Antonio Perez has an interest in belief change, and I think that would be a great topic to pursue as well. So you speak and we listen. So thank you all very much. I am going to open the microphones now, and everybody say good night, all.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, Shawn, come to New Hampshire, single digits at night.